A team that
Yep.
is not only exactly where it needs to be, but ahead of schedule. How's that for a segue? It's good podcasting. The Memphis Grizzlies, buy, sell, or hold.
As I was looking at this team, like, we don't need to talk about how over the moon everyone rightfully is about the Grizzlies, but man, they're set up to just do whatever they want. Like they can play this. I said buyer. They should be a buyer, and it's just mainly because they can be, and they can flex so hard. Like they've got all these salaries, right? So if you want to, and they're at a point sort of like even probably to a greater degree than Atlanta, because all of Atlanta's like, supposed glut of good players is like they actually haven't been that great. But you've got Steven Adams like 17-ish million, Dylan Brooks 12-ish, Kyle Anderson expiring just under 10, Melton, Jones, and Culver are all between 6 and 9. Clark, if you want to throw him in there, is just under 3 million. You've got all that stuff, right? Basically like good players, like players that would play someplace. I would argue inessential, with like Brooks matters, Adams actually matters, but the rest of those guys, you could move. They have all their own firsts, and they got 3 coming in. Granted, they're from the Warriors and Jazz, but also the Lakers between 22 and 24, depending on how those get conveyed. So if you want, like, if Siakam's on the board, which maybe he's not, like the Grizzlies could throw a zillion picks together and matching salary with players that are actually good that Toronto would want, and go make the Godfather offer for Siakam. Or, if you want to downgrade and go for just the best players that are actually available, you don't have to offer that much. But Memphis, I think, has to explore being a buyer because they're really good and they do feel kind of ripe for consolidation, and they're just super asset rich. So I think there's a chance that they could go into the playoffs like as dangerous as absolutely anybody if they wanted to. I don't know if they want to, but just looking at what they've got, they have the chance to do almost anything.
I echo everything you said, and I think Harrison Barnes or Jerami Grant, surprise, surprise, we're just going to mention the same names over and over.
Right.
But those are moves they could make without giving up Desmond Bain, Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant, or I would say even Zaire Williams, who has
Yeah.
perked up a bit lately. The other thing, now, I don't want to say I was first on this. I was early on this, and it's gained some traction basically everywhere outside of Memphis, which when fans were talking to me about it, they didn't seem to like this. They felt, and he's hurt now. So, but let's just say they know, they get the medicals. He's fine. He'll be back in time for the playoffs to be really good. I thought they were a sneaky good Myles Turner destination. And he's probably someone, just due to the sheer volume of first round picks that you have, that you could just build shit around expiring contracts. And maybe, is Indiana interested in Brandon Clark or Xavier Tillman or something? You could make that deal and he can play with Jaren Jackson. Hell, you could keep Steven Adams in that deal, bring him off the bench. So there are so many different permutations of what they could do, and they can do it without bankrupting their best tangible assets, that I think they're almost obligated to. Because let's just say if Myles Turner is going to cost you, let's say you have to give up someone just that Indiana would be interested in actually playing. Let's say it's Brandon Clark, who's having a bounce back year after he was essentially out of the rotation last year.
Yeah.
If it costs you Brandon Clark and 2 first round picks, they'll be protected. But Brandon Clark and 2 first round picks, and obviously the salary filler to go with it, what does that cost to you, really?
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're holding all the cards. The other thing is, I mean, the devil's advocate case is that it's a small market team. They got here by just drafting well, basically, and being smart and being careful. And like, what's so bad about going forward with all these affordable contracts and a bunch of first round picks? Other than the fact that your team is so good now that your own first rounders aren't that great. Like they could just kind of hang tight and just wait for the Jazz and the Warriors to age out and the Suns, and then suddenly it's their conference. Like, that's not an unrealistic scenario. But I would argue, like, if you're already this good and you have that much upside, like, let's go. Let's do the Myles Turner thing. Let's throw everything at Boston for Jaylen Brown. Let's make the Raptors trade Siakam. I don't know, you name it. Like they've got limitless options.
in edit to this podcast, because we were recording it in C, but the Clippers are no longer sad sack because they erased a 35-point lead to beat the Wizards. So the Wizards are the sad sacks.
There's a lot of sad sacks out there.
I'm with you on Memphis though. And I do think they are justified in holding because this is still found money. I think while Steven Adams has been good for them and he might lead the league in like shooting percentages on little tips, those volleyball tips around the basket, but the way they made the Valanciunas trade, that was very clearly something aimed at planning for the future because it moved them up in the draft. And this season has almost found money because yes, the internal expectations were probably higher. This is year 3 of me being woefully, irretrievably wrong about the Memphis Grizzlies, but you probably weren't expecting to be this good. So yeah, you could stand pat, but I'm with you because the opportunity cost and just the risk analysis of this is so low. You might as well, we're not talking about going all in for a Jaylen Brown and a Bradley Beal and having to worry if they're going to stick around. Myles Turner would definitely extend there. And Harrison Barnes has another 2 years on his deal. Jeremy Grant would extend there. Maybe you don't want to pay him. I get that. Like you can make moves that will cost you money to keep these players, but they're not going to just, like I said before, bankrupt you of your assets. So I don't want to say they're obligated to buy, but if I was the Grizzlies, I'd be pretty reckless leading into the trade deadline. I'm not gonna lie.
Just go, like, it doesn't even have to be just because you can just go get Buddy Hield. Just like add a lights out shooter that you can bring off. Like, why not? Just do something. I don't know. I guess we just keep saying the same thing about the Grizzlies, but like I was blown away by the position they're in. What franchise is in a better position, like near and long term? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Look at you bringing up an original name, even though it's kind of a cliche name in trade circles with Buddy Hield. But like that's something you do. But look, Eric Gordon even kind of works for this team because he does the things on offense that Dylan Brooks thinks that he can do. Let's go.
Confidence is a skill.
This team is. I had Sharon Brown on to do the Memphis Grizzlies preview each of the past 2 years, and one of the years she said Dylan Brooks is Dollar Tree Kobe.
That's good.